everybody, welcome to color grading for digital cinematography, our masterclass. Welcome to this 4-week session. We're gonna have a lot of things to explore. Just have really interesting setups with the camera taking footage, bringing the footage into Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve, and just really learning about color science, what color management, color grading, and how it all works in the whole process from the camera all the way through to post-production. So it's going to be a pretty in-depth workshop. Just want to thank you guys for joining us, and also be sure you can rewatch all of these, and that's going to be the key, that you can rewatch these, try these techniques out. What we really want to encourage too is that go out to the libraries and check out the Blackmagic Cinema Camera. Take it out, try some of these things out, and also getting some footage out and trying it out on DaVinci Resolve as well. So what we're going to be doing is provide some sample clips that we'll send out to everyone as well as part of this workshop. And at the same time, we'll be loading these clips onto the digital arts computer workstations. What does this all mean? Well, here's the whole thing. So we have our library partners. So I just want to thank off by thanking all our partners in this project. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts. Then we have our library partners. So we have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and the Wasaga Beach Public Library. So at the 3 library partners that I just named, we have digital arts computers. So they are iMac 27-inch computers that are designed for video editing. They come with the Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve Studio software, so the full editing software that I'll be demoing with as well. And the great thing is that what we're going to do is over the next coming weeks, we're going to load some footage onto the computers as well as access becomes available. And that way you can also go and try some of these things out there at the computer. So that's going to be coming up over the next little while. But in the meantime, the point is to go over these concepts, techniques, talk about it. Some of it's theoretical, some of it is more of a science tech thing. But at the end of the day, it's how do we use all of these color tools to better tell our stories and to help our image and image management and so on. So it's really great, and we want to demystify some of these concepts, like what is a LUT and what is shooting raw film modes and things like that. So we're going to have a good long discussion over how all these things work and demo them through, and that's the main thing. Really have a lot of demos throughout this. So again, I encourage you to rewatch all these links that you're watching us live right now. If you can't watch a live session, don't worry, you can access it through the recorded session right after it becomes available, so you can check it out then. So so let's get right into this. So in terms of what we're going to look at today, we're going to look at camera LUT settings on the Blackmagic Cinema Camera, and we're going to look at what it means to shooting Blackmagic RAW format. What does that mean? What can we do with the format, and what's available with the images with that kind of a format? So that's really the fun thing. Then we'll have a bit of time for some Q&A, and you can always send me an email. It's tom@tbmcs.ca. That's our website. But also, send me an email, tom@tbmcs.ca, if you have questions, or if you're stuck with something or footage that you've shot and you're struggling with how to deal with it or work on it in the colorway. Then let's get into that and talk about that. So again, that's going to be our overview for today. Okay, so now in terms of cameras, we have a couple cameras set up here. So I'm going to be able to demo, what's on the screen with this camera view, and then we also have our actual camera that's doing the filming. So this is the exact Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K model that you can access through the library. So it looks, it's like a DSLR in its form figure. If you need to, if you haven't done so already, please. You can go on our website, and what you need to do to access these cameras, they're available at the Blue Mountains Public Library and the Wasaga Beach Public Library, is you need to just complete a proficiency test. It's online through questions, so you complete the test, then you have access to the camera. And again, email me if you have questions about that, because we really want to encourage everyone to take this workshop, but also to go and take the camera out and then try these things out that I'm going over. And this is the great thing. We're going to go basically from camera through to color grading. So it's not a separation, but we want to look at how do you use the camera, how do you use it in the best way possible to then bring into your color grading concept. So we're going to have a lot of information to provide as we go. Okay, so here's our image. And what this is now, what you're seeing is the actual, this is the actual lookup table, or the LUT, being shown on the image, so on your screen. So as you can see, there's a bit of contrast, there's color information. And what this is it's a base setting for our color that takes the raw film format of what's being captured and adds this look to it. So a lookup table. Lookup table gives it information like how, saturation, a curve, contrast, and all the information to make it into what we perceive as kind of a normal looking video image. So that's what that does. Now I'm gonna flip this over, and then let's just see what it looks like in the raw mode. So this is now how it looks without the lookup table. So this is the film mode, and what this is emulating is it's making it like shooting on negative in the past. So it's, as you can see, there's not a lot of color information being shown, but it's in there. It's in the metadata of the pixels and of the image. So that's the raw versus the color LUT, or lookup table. And what I can do is I'm just accessing it through, there's a button on the top, and we've set up the function keys to be that easy to use. So there's basically a function 1, function 2, and I can probably just show it over a little bit more like this. So it's just right up here. So there's basically 1, 2, 3, and we've set up that the middle one will toggle between the lookup table being on or off. Now we can also access that in the actual menus as well. So that's the great thing. So we'll be able to go right to the menu, and let me just focus in here on the menus. So the menu button is this button right over here on the camera. So there's a play button to play back your clips. That's the menu, and there's a zoom in button if you want to check your focus. And then there's also HFR, which is a high frame rate. So just so we kind of know what these buttons are here too. So if I toggle over here, and I go over to what's the monitor section, and let's just get this exposure down a little bit just so we can see the text really clear. So this one says monitor. So you'll see there's a record, there's a monitor, audio, setup, presets, LUTs. Now LUTs we'll get to slowly and surely at the end of this, by the end of this. But what I just want to show first is how do we turn this on or off? Because that's our basic thing. You turn the camera on. Do you want to display your 3D LUT, lookup table? So I can simply just turn it on or off right here. So I can go on or off right there, and it will also toggle. This is me using the top button, so you can see I'm toggling it on or off. So that's how simple we've made the presets on the cameras. When you take them out, you can just do them in that manner. And here it again is on or off. And that allows us to, again, here it is, it's off, on, off, on, off, right? So you can see that difference in the color information. And that is based on what the LUT setting is that I showed you at the end monitor there. So under the menus, if we go to LUTs, you can change these to different things. So I'm going to, this is Generation 5 film mode, which these cameras currently work in, and to extended video. Now some of you may have not seen the Generation 5 setting yet. This is the current Blackmagic type of lookup table or generation of color science that they're using. And we will be doing these upgrades on the cameras as well. So there is just a recent upgrade that just happened a couple weeks ago. So we'll be updating the cameras. So if you've taken the camera out and you're like, wait a sec, I haven't seen the Generation 5 film, that will be getting updated shortly. So next time you take it out, it will be ready for you there as well. But if it's not Generation 5, it will be just a Blackmagic to extended video. It's just called something else, but it's the same idea. Now within this, there's different LUTs that you can go into like different types that you may want. And generation 5 film to video and to extended video. So I'm just using that extended video. That's the default. That's great. And we can go from there. And by the end of this, we're going to look at how we can create even custom lookup tables in the software and work all the way through that. Okay, so let's start back here. So here in our record menu options, you'll see there's different settings in the formats. And we've addressed this in past workshops, but I just wanted to go over this again. What does this mean? So the first thing is what we want to focus on, and what's one of the the best formats to work in, and we'll see why today as we get through the demo, is the Blackmagic RAW format allows us to capture everything with that film RAW mode and metadata. So again, what is metadata? So metadata is all the digital information that's within the video clip. So we might be familiar with this if you do photography, that there's metadata in your photos. So exposure, shutter speed, daylight settings. So is it daylight balance, tungsten balance, all that kind of fun stuff. That's all the metadata. And similarly in video, there's metadata as well, especially for within this camera. Not every camera will have metadata to that high degree, but it might just have frame rates, format, is it HD, Ultra HD, all of that kind of stuff. That'll be at least at a minimum in the metadata. So here we have a few things that are available: constant bitrate, constant quality. So I recommend for filming Blackmagic RAW if we're using like a 4K. So there's 4K DCI, which is a cinema standard. There's Ultra HD, which would just be like for your television set that's in 4K. The 4K DCI is what you'd film if you're going to put it into a theater. Has a little bit of a letterbox on the top and bottom. So within that, you can also choose these compression rates. So I'm just using the 12:1 compression rate. It looks great. It works really well for general filming. If something's of great importance, like archival, someone, you're interviewing someone that is once in a lifetime experience, I would recommend then going to 3:1 or 5:1 for a higher, less compressed thing. So what do these ratios mean? So it's just talking about the compression factor. So 1:1 would be totally uncompressed. 12:1 is 12 times compressed the original. So 12:1 ratio of compression. Now these are very, very low loss compression formats. I think they hold up quite well. The 8:1 is very difficult to discern between 3:1 and 5:1. 12:1, you start to get a little bit of grain if you start to bring up the darker areas of an image. You can see a slight difference in quality, but nothing really major. So this is kind of that. So now in terms of the other setting, you can use something called ProRes. And this is Apple's proprietary format of handling the image. So this is really the wrapper, I should call it. So format refers to the, I was shooting 4K, HD, Ultra HD, that format of video. So is it HD? Is it Ultra HD? Is it 4K? Right? So those are those formats. And then the wrapper is what kind of file it's going to be in. So ProRes becomes a QuickTime. QuickTimes are .mov. So that's what a ProRes file is. Versus a Blackmagic RAW file is a .braw, Blackmagic RAW. So that's the difference between .mov and .braw. Okay, so I would recommend using the Blackmagic RAW because you have a lot of amazing features in color processing that you can use after. But let's say you're doing something and someone says, hey, I need a ProRes file, like an editor, or it's for something that's been commissioned. You could then say, if someone tells you, I want a ProRes delivery, then you can just film it in ProRes and deliver it that way. But even if you shoot Blackmagic RAW, you can always export it as a ProRes file after and have all of that amazing extra metadata features and capabilities that Blackmagic RAW offers. So that's kind of the double bonus that can be really interesting. Okay, so within that, here is the other thing that's really, really important. This is key. Dynamic range will decide how we're filming it. And this is really important. So the dynamic range decides whether you're going to film something that's called baked in with the video lookup table baked into it. And that means you can never add it later. It's baked into it. So it's basically adding that color information that I showed you guys between the raw and unraw, raw or with the lookup table, right into the file. And you can never change it again after that moment of baking it in. And that's really important, the dynamic range. And it changes how much latitude there is in the exposure. It changes all this amazing stuff that's available in the film mode. So again, think of film as your film negative. That's ideally what you want. You want that super latitude concept. So latitude refers to what you can see in the darkest areas, the darkest of the dark colors, to the brightest and most highlight area of the image, from the dark to the light. And that's the total latitude range. At a certain point, things are too bright or things are too dark, and it can't, the sensor and that format can't see it anymore. And that becomes total darkness, or it becomes totally blown out in the case of a highlight. And that's that dynamic range. It's about 12 or 13 stops of f-stop range. So if you think about, if we start at 2.8 and we go to 4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16, and 22, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stops just within that. So a lens will typically have 6 to 8 stops and full stops. The dynamic range is about 12 stops. So it's beyond even the lens, and it's trying to help mimic eyesight and our ability to see in the dark and also to see into the lighter areas. But beyond that, it will blow out or it will be too dark. So that is the range area. With the film mode, we get the highest maximum dynamic range. So let's just go, I've shown you guys the film, so let's just go to the video mode here. I'm gonna exit out of this. So here's the dynamic range. So now I'm basically in the full video mode. Right? So what does that look like? So here's the video mode. Right? So now you can see I'm basically, if I put the lookup table, I'm making it double concentrated in terms of the information. Right? So we can't have both on. So now if you can see this is basically with the lookup table. So I'm just going to go back and change that setting so I can go to film mode, and you can see now it's negative. And here's the extended video and the video. Extended video is just giving us a little bit more range. You can see how it's a little bit darker. It's really hard to see, but just a little bit darker in the background there. So the highest range possible. So this is baked in information right into it versus the film mode where it's a negative, and then I can still apply it like that. So watch again if I go from here. And you can see it's basically the same. I just need that moment to trigger it on or off, right? So that's the decision factor in terms of when you're using these cameras. What are you going to do? Are you going to shoot it in the film mode, dynamic range, or one of the video modes that basically you bake in that information into the video file, and then it's basically ready to go out there to deliver, to send to people, and so on. Versus the film mode, you will actually be filming it like this. This is what it looks like once you record it. It doesn't have that lookup table. We're only adding that in camera just to see what it looks like for a reference point. I think that's really important to remember. It's just for a reference point to say, hey, that's what it's going to look like with the lookup table applied. But this is what your file is going to look like when you offload it from the card to the actual computer when you're editing, right? So what we'll do is, let's do, I'm going to record with both of these formats. I'm just going to record a little snippet here. So when you're recording, you just hit the record button here. There's also one on the front here. And then to end, I'll just do about 10 seconds. I'm just going to, and you can hit it again, and you can see the red light's off. It's no longer running the time. So I recorded 10 seconds, 23 frames in terms of the actual recording. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the menu, and then I'm going to go to the extended video dynamic range. Okay, and you can see this is just, again, this doesn't matter if it's on or off. It's showing me extra information. So I'm just going to record this part. Hit the record. I'm going to record another 10 seconds of that particular clip. Perfect. And then hit it again. And then it's just a touch screen. This whole thing is a touch screen. Okay, so that's all we needed to do. So we have both of them. And now watch, I'm going to play this back. And so you'll see this one has the actual lookup table applied. And now I'm going to go back to this one. And you'll see it's totally negative. So this is what we recorded. This is our information in terms of, this is exactly how we recorded it. So we recorded this one. And then I'm going to go to the next one. And this is how we recorded that one. And it's not about, I can keep applying it just for visual, but I'm double applying it, right? So this is baked in. I can't take this off. Versus this one, there's no lookup table baked into the data or to the video image. So that's the real important difference, right? So that's how you know what you're doing. So again, how do we access that? We go over here, right? And we just decide what our dynamic range is. This is something that I want to just differentiate, because sometimes people think because they're shooting in Blackmagic RAW, the dynamic range is automatically a RAW film type mode. But that's just a wrapper and a name, and I think it might get a little confusing. But I really wanted to clarify that in this first session so we can understand the difference between Blackmagic RAW, filming in the format, and dynamic range, which is a separate tab within the record functions of the menu. Right, so how do we get to that again? So under record, there's these arrows take us through the different menu options. So this is tab 2, takes us to the dynamic range. So that's the key. So dynamic range controls if we're going to shoot it in the film mode, which is oftentimes called a raw mode, versus this area where we're just saying to shoot the Blackmagic RAW format, right? The wrapper format of what the video file will be like, a .braw. So that's what that's going to look like. So that's the really cool and fun thing about that. Okay, so now, just to take the card out, I'm just going to go from here. I'm going to go back to this record so it's not standing by on the actual data. I don't like removing the SD card if I'm still in the playback mode, because I feel like it's, reading the card, and it's just to be gentle to the data and management and make sure that we don't do anything or corrupt the file. I like to always go back to the record mode. So I'm just going to simply take this out, pop this out. I have my SD card here, the tiny little card. So you can either record on the SD card, or there's the CFast 2.0 card. Now, for the library cameras that we've set up, we recommend using the CFast 2.0 card, because that's the fastest one to be able to shoot 4K video. Whereas the SD, the SD card is optimized for HD or the higher compressed 4K as well. So that's the difference between the two. We've kind of set up the CFast 2.0 card, which, just seeing if I have a quick example here somewhere of one. I don't see one handy. Let me actually just look in this camera. And I do have one in this camera, so it's perfect. So this is the CFast 2.0 card that will be in the side of it versus the SD card. So again, if shooting 4K with the library cameras, we've optimized these ones to be for 4K, and these ones mainly for either really more compressed, like Ultra HD, or for HD optimization of recording. So I just wanted to mention that as well. Okay, so now let's go back over to the computer. And what I'm going to do is we're going to just load up this information and get this working here. So I'm just going to eject. I have another card in here, just offloading some footage. And so what you'll do is basically on the computer, like an iMac that's in the library computers, you'll put it into the back of the iMac, and there is a SD card reader. So you just pop it in the back, and then what it's going to do is it's basically going to show up, in this case, like some sort of usually an A card or something like that. So here's the information. I'm just going to open it up. And what it does is it opens it up in something called Blackmagic Raw Player. This gets installed directly when you install Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve editing software, which is where we can also do our color correcting work. Blackmagic Raw Player can be installed on Windows or Mac computers, so they're universal for where it can be used. For Linux versions as well, it's available. Now, what it does is you can see how this one looks, and we'll just do a comparison for the other one. And here's the two. It's just opening up one at a time, but this is the second one. This is the first one. You can see the difference between the file information. And that's it. So you can see that one is in the film dynamic range. The other one has the baked in color information straight like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this over to just a masterclass color demo. I'm just going to put it onto like a RAID drive here. So our computers at the libraries have either a solid state drive or a RAID drive. And the RAID drive is basically two drives that are striped together to act as one to make them super fast. A solid state drive gives you the same kind of speed because it works just like an SD card, and it's just a solid state drive. It doesn't have any moving parts, so it can be a lot faster in its data read and write. A lot of information on that. Now, also we recommend when you're doing any video editing work at the library computers that you bring your own external hard drive. And the format that you want to work in terms of formatting for a hard drive, so let's say you got, like one of these kind of lacy, rugged, I recommend these a lot. They can be dropped and they're really good in different weather patterns. And so they have like a rubber and they're pretty good for like shock resistance. I've dropped these accidentally and they have a really good shock resistance. They're Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C formatted, giving you a pretty good speed. You can also get solid state versions of these that can be ultra fast. So then in terms of formatting, I would recommend formatting into exFAT, it's called, if you're going to use the drive on a Windows and a Mac computer. If you already use a Mac computer and you're going into the library, then just format it in a regular Mac format on the actual drive. And then then you're able to use it on the Mac and you're going back to, let's say, your home computer that's a Mac. But if you have a Windows computer, I would recommend first formatting it to an exFAT so that you can use it at the library computers or digital arts workstations, which are Macs. So they require something that you can read and write to in the Mac OS world. So that's either exFAT or a Mac formatted hard drive. Versus Windows computers, they will use something called NTFS. For the format of the drive, and the Macs can read those, but you won't be able to write to those. So just a little bit of information on that. Okay, so I've copied it over. So I just dragged and dropped it into this masterclass demo here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up DaVinci Resolve. I'm just going to load it up. So Studio 17, that's exactly what's on our digital arts workstations at the libraries. So you just click on the icon and DaVinci Resolve is going to start. And let's just do a whole new project. So how do we start a new project? That's what we'll do. And what I'm going to do is just go to the media tab here. I'm going to create a new bin and just call it color grading demo clips week 1. We'll be doing different clips each week. I'm going to right click, import the media right from my drive right here. Open these up. Change project frame rate. So yes, I want it to go to that project frame rate. So here's what it looks like now. So again, here's our raw, the first one. Sorry, not raw, in our film dynamic mode. See, even I'm saying the wrong thing here. So it's in our film dynamic mode, and this one's already baked in. As you can see, the information is just baked right in there. Okay, now what I can do is I can go to the inspector, and what I'll do is I can go to the inspector tab at the top here, and then what I can do is under image, we can decide how we want to decode it. And this is the beauty of Blackmagic Raw of what we can do. So I can decode using the project overall and make like a project setting. But what we're gonna do here is say, let's go to the clip. And color science generation 5, generation 4 will be the previous one. White balance as shot. So right now I shot it as a daylight balance. And exposure and all this. And watch this. So ISO is 500. Let's say we made a mistake. And this is what's amazing with Blackmagic Raw. So again, I've gone to under image in the inspector tab for that particular clip. Okay, so decode quality. It gives me that information, the gamma, Blackmagic design film, and watch this. I can go to video, and it will apply the gamma as the video mode with the lookup table. Right here, I can say apply LUT, lookup table, and it's embedded, telling it to do that video look as well. So that's how we can turn the LUT, the lookup table, on or off. It's that simple in the image. But check this out. I can actually change it and say, hey, I wanted to actually shoot 400. And look, it's making it darker. Or I wanted to shoot at 100 ISO, and it makes it a lot darker. Or I can say, wait, it's not bright enough. I want it to be 800 ISO. So I'm actually changing this as if I'm back in the camera, changing the settings. So this is the phenomenal thing about Blackmagic Raw. We can do this kind of information changes within the clips themselves. Look at the white balance here. So let's say I had the wrong mode. Instead of daylight, it should have been tungsten. Look at that. And that makes it the blue tint. So let's go back to like 500, how we shot it. And now it's making that bluish tint, right? So I'm saying, hey, it should have been tungsten. I meant to be tungsten, not daylight. So it's almost as if I'm back in the camera. So again, how do we do this? I went to the inspector tab. I go to the image. And instead of decode using the project, which is just doing nothing, because I haven't set up a project setting, I go to the clip, right? And then here I can say, let's do tungsten, and let's apply the lookup table, right? So that's what we can do. Look at this too. I can also change the exposure. I can say, let's go down half a stop, 0.05. Let's go down a full stop, -1. So I can progressively make this darker if I want to like underexpose it. So I can change that. I can add more saturation and say, let's make it super saturated. And back to like daylight. So we can say, let's make this super saturated like that. Let's make that the look. And then there's more. I can also do contrast, so I can add more contrast. And we haven't even gone into color grading yet. So this is what we can do with the Blackmagic Raw mode, which is the fantastic thing. So this kind of image manipulation is only available if you've shot it in the Blackmagic Raw.BRAW mode, which again is what I highly recommend for using these Blackmagic cameras for. And watch, I can just undo all of that and just go back to that. So let's go to this next one. This one has the baked in information. And you can see the gamma is like that. And watch, I can actually take it out. What is basically baked in, turned on, I can turn it off. And I think that's the really amazing thing is in the past, when you did the baked in information, like that baked in lookup table color information, I couldn't turn it off. Now we can actually turn that off and make that work. Yeah, so I can turn that on or off. So here's the really interesting idea now. So I can go back to this. I can then turn on change these white balance settings, tungsten, and so on. Right. So the gamma is like that. I can go to a custom. Go to the extended video. Right. So you can see now it's looking just like the other clip, or just as shot. And you can see that's color temperature 5600. So that's again with the extended video, and this one's, so the defaults are how as they're shot, right? But I need to go over here to the clip, and then I can say gamma, let's go to extended video for that clip that was in the film dynamic range, and apply the lookup table. Now what's really important is, and we'll look at this in further detail, in the next weeks to come, is that the dynamic range of how it's shot is, in my opinion, the film dynamic range still gives you that highest dynamic range versus the pre-processing it with that extended video on. I find it slightly reduces the dynamic range, and we're going to look at if that's true. It's kind of a theory of mine, and we're going to look at a comparison to find out, is that actually true? Like, is anything really changing? And I think that it would. But again, if this is really working in this kind of a metadata only mode, it could be, it could be potentially that there really is no difference. So I'm always recommending to shoot in the film dynamic range mode, because you're really getting the largest amount of latitude in the exposure for that Blackmagic RAW camera versus shooting in the video mode, which is limiting it. So again, just to recap that, if you shoot the dynamic range in the video mode or extended video mode, you can then give that data, that file, the video file, it's already basically color graded. It's ready to go with that lookup table applied. If you shoot in the film dynamic range, you have to then either bring it into software to add the lookup table like Blackmagic Studio. You can do it right in the clip, and then it's ready to go, versus color grading. And that's a whole other thing that we're going to do, is how do we color grade the image. And then, so that's a really important difference. Now, if you don't want to shoot Blackmagic RAW and someone's like, I really want a ProRes wrapper, I want a .mov ProRes file, then you want to think about, okay, do you want to shoot it in the film dynamic range or in the video dynamic range? Because if they want a specific format, that one you can't turn the extended video or video lookup table on or off. That one is totally baked in. There's no going back to it. So that's really, really important, because that will really affect the dynamic range if it was shot in film or with the video mode. So with ProRes, there's no going back. If it's video, in video mode, it's the lookup table is 100% baked in and you can't take it off. But in Blackmagic RAW, as you saw, we can actually take it off and go back to the RAW mode as well. So that's just to recap what the main differences here between the two. So again, it's quite an amazing thing that we can just quickly add that on. And as we go, we're going to look at the gamma and these lookup tables and how we can actually create that in the color grading tabs on their own without even having to do anything with that. So again, here's our clip with the Blackmagic Extended Video turned on, and let's just have a look at this one. Yeah, so this is actually interesting. So there definitely is there's a slight difference between these two clips I'm seeing on the monitor here. So the one that's shot in the dynamic range, the hat's not blown out of the green gnome, and it's really, really subtle. So that hat's not blown out. And then here, it's a little bit brighter. And you can barely see it, I think, when I'm streaming it out. But there is a slight difference. So my theory might be, is potentially correct here, and I think it would be, is that, the gamma range, if you're shooting in the film mode, is going to be better than shooting in the video mode and then turning it off. And again, I welcome feedback on that. We're going to kind of, again, these theories are fun to see. We're going to, challenge and test them. But right now I'm already seeing that there is a bit of a difference between the two clips in applying the extended video to the film dynamic range shot footage versus the one that was in the extended video already, and that one has a bit of a less of that. So we'll just go to the video mode too. So instead of extended video, I'm just going to go to the regular video, and yeah, that one's showing the same thing. So it's really interesting. So definitely, it looks like the theory is, it would be correct that you really want to shoot, I recommend, again, in the dynamic range of the film mode, and then apply things after, versus taking it off the other way around. I think there's something in that range of the sensor that is only goes so far in the metadata, that there is a little bit of information that gets lost if it's not in the film dynamic range mode. So that's interesting to know, and we'll see how that goes through as we continue through this. Perfect. Okay, so that's the main session today. So again, think about what modes you're going to use in your camera. Blackmagic Raw, ProRes. What is the lookup table, right? So the LUT, the lookup table, is adding, a color grade essentially to a film dynamic range looking negative that has really no color, is flat, doesn't have contrast. So it's adding that lookup table to give you a preview of what it's going to look like if you do a color grade. Some people don't do too much more. Like you might just say, hey, I really like that lookup table, and you're kind of set with that. And that's why we're going to, in the weeks to come, we're going to look at creating our own custom lookup table as well in Resolve, being able to apply that directly to the footage and in the camera. So that's going to be a real fun exploration. So yeah, so let's, if there's any, I just want to see if there's any kind of questions or anything, and you can email me directly at tom@tbmcs.ca. And, in the meantime, definitely please check out the cameras that are available through our library partners. So again, in terms of the project, I want to thank all our partners in this. We have the Canada Council for the Arts. We have our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. And as I mentioned, we have the digital arts computers that are loaded with Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve on each of the computers. There's 2 in each library. And then we're going to get this footage that I'm demoing with. We're going to get it out to everyone, but also we'll have these on the computer so that you can continue this exploration as well. But what better way to do this than go out to the libraries, to either Blue Mountains Public Library or Wasaga Beach Public Library. You can directly take out the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera. And if you haven't done so yet, you just need to do an online proficiency test. So you just go to our website, www.tbmcs.ca. Take the test. It's online. Just a few questions. There's videos that you can watch that you should watch that help you answer the questions and navigate, understand how the camera works. And the idea is just to make sure everyone can operate it safely so that we can continue to enjoy it as a community at each library, and there's no issues with it. If you ever have any problems with the computer, please don't hesitate to contact us by email or even talk to the library, and we'll come out to tech support or help with that camera. So never feel that, if you think something might have happened, don't be worried. We're here to help with that as well. So in the meantime, please do check out this, take out the camera, check it out. You can rewatch this session and continue to explore it. So next week, we're going to get into color grading and how we can create this kind of a lookup table in color grading and how we can build it from the film dynamic range negative and build it into a color grading exercise to create the same kind of look. But in color grading, we can actually still customize it, so we can make it just a touch more contrast or less contrast, right? And have a really nice fine tune of it. But it's very similar to what you can do in the Blackmagic Raw clip mode that I showed you guys. So really exciting stuff. So thanks again for joining us. You can rewatch this and all the upcoming weeks. You can rewatch. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We have tons of videos on the Blackmagic camera and also already on some color grading workshops we did in the past. So that's it for now. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you guys next week, same time, to continue this journey in color grading and color science in digital cinematography. All the best and take care.